Have you ever wondered what it really takes to change the world? I mean, a complete, total revolution. Well, today, we're going to look at the secret recipe that let one small island, Great Britain, kick off the Industrial Revolution and pretty much reshape all of human history.
It's a huge question, right? Was it just luck? Or maybe some kind of genius? Well, the answer, believe it or not, starts with the ground itself. It was this unique mix of natural ingredients that created the perfect storm for an explosion of new ideas and inventions. So, let's dive in and see exactly what those ingredients were.
All right, we're going to break this recipe down into 4 main parts. First, we'll look at the island's basic blueprint. Then, we'll dig into the amazing gifts found underground. After that, we'll see what the fields were providing. And finally, we'll take a ride on the water superhighway that connected everything together.
Okay, first up, the blueprint. You know, before you can build anything, you have to know what you're working with. And Britain's landscape? It was incredibly varied.
So check this out. Britain is basically 2 totally different countries squished into one. In the north and west, you've got these rugged, rocky highlands. Not great for growing stuff, but perfect for digging up valuable minerals. Then, in the south and east, it's all flat, fertile lowlands, absolutely ideal for farming. This split meant Britain could do 2 essential jobs at the same time: mine resources and grow food.
And of course, the most obvious advantage, it's an island. That was like having a giant natural moat protecting it from invasion. It also meant the British people had to get really good at sailing and building ships. All those natural harbors and its spot on the map made it the perfect gateway for trade between Europe and the Americas. And the last part of this blueprint was the weather. Yeah, Britain is famous for its mild, damp, rainy climate. But all that rain wasn't just good for growing crops. It turns out the constant humidity was like a secret weapon for the very first textile factories, because it kept the delicate cotton threads from drying out and snapping. It's almost like the weather itself was designed for industry.
So, that's the lay of the land. Now, let's dig a little deeper. Literally, it's time to find the real fuel that was about to power this entire revolution. For pretty much all of history, if you needed energy, you used wood. You'd burn it for heat, use it to build things, you name it. But as Britain's population started to boom, its huge force started to shrink. They were running out of their main fuel source and desperately needed a replacement, something more powerful.
And they found it right under their feet: coal. This stuff was the ultimate game changer. Britain had tons of it, a lot of it was pretty easy to get to, and wow, was it an upgrade from wood. It burned hotter, longer, and provided the kind of high-powered energy needed to run steam engines and factories. This was the future.
So, what exactly is a fossil fuel, like coal? Well, think of it like a battery made by nature. For millions and millions of years, ancient plants absorbed energy from the sun. When they died, they got buried, and all that solar energy got trapped and compressed underground. So when you burn coal, you're literally unleashing the stored-up energy of a long-lost world.
But all that energy is kind of useless if you don't have something strong enough to contain it. You can't build a powerful steam engine out of wood, right? It would just fall apart. Coal was the energy, for sure, but it needed a partner to give that energy shape and structure.
And that partner was iron. This incredibly strong, durable metal became the literal backbone of the Industrial Revolution. We're talking everything: the factory machines, the massive bridges, and thousands of miles of railway tracks were all built from iron. And here's where Britain basically hit the lottery. To get pure iron out of rock, you have to smelt it, which just means you have to melt it at ridiculously high temperatures. And guess what that requires? A ton of fuel. The fact that Britain's massive coal deposits were located right next to its iron ore deposits, that was an incredible stroke of luck. It was like an economic cheat code that made producing iron way cheaper and easier than anywhere else in the world.
Okay, so we've got the power and the building materials. But revolutions are expensive. All these mines, factories, and railways cost a fortune. So, where did the money come from? Well, it came from Britain's oldest and richest industry.
You might not believe this, but for centuries, the engine driving the British economy wasn't a steam engine. It was a sheep. The country's cool, damp, hilly climate was absolutely perfect for raising millions of them, and English wool was famous as the best in the world. This wool trade made Britain super wealthy, long before the first factory ever opened its doors.
See, here's the thing. You can't really have an industrial revolution without having an agricultural revolution first. New farming methods meant Britain could grow way more food with fewer people. This did two things. It freed up a ton of workers to go get jobs in the new city factories, and all that wealth from the wool and food trade provided the cash that investors needed to build those factories in the first place.
All right, we're on to our final ingredient. You've got your coal, your iron, your workers, your food, but how do you move all this heavy stuff around? You need a transportation network, a superhighway, and luckily for Britain, nature had already built one. Rivers were the original multitaskers of the industrial age. First, fast-flowing rivers provided the power for the earliest factories, turning giant water wheels. Second, they were the absolute cheapest and easiest way to transport tons of heavy materials, like coal and iron, across the country. And third, where those rivers met the sea, they created these perfect deep harbors for port cities like London, connecting Britain to the entire globe.
All that time spent working on the water, from the rivers inside the country to the seas all around it, created a whole population of expert sailors. These people knew ships, they knew navigation, and they were perfectly prepared to take all these new British goods and inventions across the oceans and build a massive global trading empire.
So when you put it all together, the diverse landscape, the coal sitting right next to the iron, the rich farmland, and that amazing network of rivers, you realize that Britain had this incredible set of natural advantages. But remember, these were just the ingredients. It took clever, ambitious people to figure out how to combine them in a whole new way, to create the recipe for a revolution.
The world you live in right now is also full of powerful ingredients, things like the internet, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence. So the real question isn't just about the past, it's about now. What recipe will you create? What are you going to build with the ingredients of your time?